63. I still can't get used to that.
Mary.
Ooh, yeah, that's it.
Moving on.
Yeah, rhythm.
I know, and it's just hard to get straight.
All right. Am I on there? Not on? Mike? 1 second. Here you go. All right. Is that on? All right. We've got the TV up here because we have Scott here, our missionary from Ecuador, and he teaches the same thing I teach down in Ecuador. In fact, he calls the ministry down there Grace and Truth Ministries of Ecuador. And the Bible says grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. So Scott's going to kind of give us a little preview of what's going on in Ecuador preaching these truths. And before he comes, I'm just going to give you a little short review of our announcements. I usually read emails from people around the country, and I'll just read a couple of them. These are people that have written to us. We get emails from all over the world. We've had 126 countries that have responded to us. We are live streaming right now all over the world. Right now people can watch us in Japan and in Europe and down in South America and Africa and Israel, and there's people watching us throughout the world. And we stream 24 hours a day on our website, and we've got about several hundred messages on the website, so if you're missing out on some, you just go on the website. But I get response from people around the country, and I got an email from Matthew Kersey in Hampton, South Carolina, and he says, I have been listening to your sermons on sermonaudio.com for weeks now, and I have listened to a little over half of the MP3s that your organization has on the site, and I have to say, I'm amazed by some of the facts that you bring to light. Most of what I have listened to are topics that no one else, preacher, minister, evangelist, etc., will even come close to acknowledging because of how upset their listeners will be. I have sought for quite a while for truth in my life. You are the first one I have heard that has more than just a few verses from the Bible to back up the message you are speaking about. Most of the others I have listened to only repeat a few verses or sometimes just select parts of the verses and then put their interpretation on the message they have believed should be brought from the words. I am a young man who was brought up mostly in a primitive Baptist church in southern South Carolina. My family has usually gone to church, but it has always seemed to me that the weekly trip was more habit and tradition than anything else. There never seemed to be anything more to it than this is what we do because this is what you are supposed to do. I have never felt right about that for a long time. I quit going and I shut God out of my life. I didn't stop believing in Him. I just could not reason out the need for church when nothing constructive that I could ever come from it. Every time I tried reading the Bible, I would get lost. I could not make any sense of it. I could not find any truth. The past few months I have gone through a change. I came to understand that unless I did something different, I would continue to live my life in vain, trying to accomplish all things by myself to no avail. I realized that no matter how hard I try to fight it, how many excuses I come up with, or how I try to do things myself, everything does come from God, whether good or bad. God sets a path for us, and the more we fight His will, the worse off we are. I had felt a calling years before this, but due to my own insecurities and the low amount of support from my family and friends, I pushed it aside. Now I see that my calling is not for them to understand. The only approval I need is God's. So I decided to go into ministry. I submitted myself to God's will, and I cannot believe the sense of peace that I have received. I feel like a brand new man. I have been devoting the majority of my spare time to studying the Bible and making sense now. I finally can understand what I read. I also have been listening to sermon audio. While I have listened to others on this site, I have found your teachings captivating. I've never heard someone place theological and historical truths together and explain how they are related. You have further inspired me to do more research on my own and on many of the topics you have spoken about. Thank you for helping me hear the truth in the Word of God. Matthew Kersey, Hampton, South Carolina. That's a very encouraging letter that he says, I've finally heard somebody that'll tell me the truth. And we do tie together history and the Bible. I started to say something. I better not. Take me all day. Daryl Tyndall writes, this is the Tyndall family from Northern Ireland. They're watching. If you're watching right now, Daryl and Linda and family, we love you and we're glad you're watching, glad you're part of our ministry. They consider me their pastor, and they're living in Ireland. But this is an email they wrote. Just wanted to send a short note to wish you all well at the barbecue today. We trust you will have a good time of fellowship and fellowship with each other. We would love to be there, and perhaps someday, God willing, we may be able to join y'all. Y'all, are you learning to talk? You're learning to talk correctly. Right, I'm off to my garage with MP3 file on a new pen drive to try a little player I got for the car. I'll be able to listen to Jim on my way to and from work now. Great. Hey, God gets all the glory for the technology we have around us, and when we use it to glorify Him and listen to His Word, it is an amazing thing indeed. God bless you all and keep you all in the well way. Agape and Phileo, Daryl, Linda, and family in Northern Ireland, and they're watching regular. We've got several other people that watch out of Ireland. We got people watching in Israel, and got people watching all over Africa, from people down in South America and in Malaysia and Japan. We've got people watching from all over the world. Then Janet Elmore writes from Oklahoma City, thank you for the DVDs. I was so excited to get the continuation of the history of Israel. Thank you for the work you do, and all those at graceandtruth.net, which work so diligently to get God's Word out. Thank you. Thinking of all you at the picnic. Maybe we can do it in 2015. God's will be done, and it will be. Thanks so much, Janet Elmore. We love you, Janet. And then Sheila Wells, a dear lady down in Louisiana, just struggles to live, and we send her some gift cards every month and give her a little financial support each month. Hello, Jim and church family. Just a note to say thanks. Let me step down here. Thanks to all the people who generously remain faithful to help the needy. I am deeply grateful to them. Having a bad time with the heat and humidity, sinus really giving me a problem. I have spoke with a lady in New York. She called me today, and we had a good conversation about the truth of God's Word. I enjoy having someone to talk to who knows truth. I hope all is well with you all. I pray for your health and for you to be with us a long time. The world is in a real mess, and the majority do not know anything is wrong. I thank Jesus for giving me truth, for sending you into my life to learn more about God. Agape and Phileo, come soon, Lord Jesus. Sheila Wells, Denham Springs, Louisiana. Dear lady, we love you very much. And I'll just tell you our announcements very quickly. We are on TV in Nashville. If you live in Nashville, we're on in Nashville every Monday night and Saturday night at 10 o'clock on Channel 176. That's Comcast. And then we're on Wednesday morning, Friday morning at midnight. And then we're on Friday morning on Channel 49 at 9 o'clock. And then we're on Hendersonville Tuesday evening at 5, Thursday night at 7. So you ought to be able to catch us in Hendersonville. We get calls from people in motels that's coming through here that see us. And And we're on radio every Saturday morning. We're on radio down in New Orleans every Saturday morning. And then we're on TV in about 200 towns and cities. I can't even name them all. I got most of them listed on the board back there, but we're on in New York, we're on in all of the boroughs of New York, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Manhattan, the Bronx. We're on in Washington, D.C., and down in Atlanta, and down in Miami, Florida, and we're on in all over Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Beaumont, San Antonio, Austin, Waco. We're on in the big cities of Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma City. We're on in Tucson, Arizona, San Diego, I may have said that, Seattle, Los Angeles, Dayton, Ohio, Roanoke, Virginia, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Cleveland, Ohio, and the list goes on and on. And we're reaching a lot of folks with this truth. I am so pleasantly shocked and surprised after starting this ministry with about 4 people in my den, me, Mary, and Eric, and one other guy, and he left the first week. And I'm just thrilled that this many people in America want predestination. They want the truth about Christmas and Easter being pagan, and that God does not love everybody, and all the rest of this heavy message, daily cross, death to self, self-denial. And the elect can hear. That's just the story. God's elect family will hear, and isn't it a strange crossbreed of misfits? That's what we are. We're just like, I mean, we got people here that's been crazy, insane, bikers, ex-drug dealers. God's people are the downtrodden, of the brokenhearted, and the bruised. And we've got every kind of person here. People that's been on drugs for years, people that's been whacked out of their mind, and and God, you know why believers do that? They look at church and they say, if that's Christianity, I don't want it. I'm going to go take drugs, or I'm going to go boogieing in bars. Well, if that's Christianity in these churches, I'm going with you, because I don't believe in that stuff. I don't believe in this easy gospel these preachers preach. Just mush. And we had a great time yesterday. It's good to see everybody here. And I'm amazed. Me and Mary used to ride around and say, are we the only people that know the truth? Are we the only ones that want the truth? And it just somehow eluded me. I've been preaching for 52, 53 years. Been studying the Bible for about 58 years. And it eluded me that God has a family that can hear. And I tried doing it the wrong way for a lot of years, and the Lord dealt with me, and now I'm just saying, hey, I'm going to tell all the truth all the time to everybody. And I told my family, and they didn't like it. And that's the way it works. A man's foes will be those of his own household when he's in truth. But it's good to see everybody here. I can't name everybody, but just we got some new folks here, and some that hadn't been here. We got Jeremiah and Caitlin, and let me see, anybody else? Oh, the first time that, Conwell is the first time Conwell's here, and Roy Goodwin, first time he's here, and Willie Gregory, first time he's here, and, Billy Pinkley, first time Billy's been here, back here. And, I forget. Daniel. Yeah, Daniel back here, first time he's here. And Mike Holt back here, he called me Friday and said he'll be here Sunday. And so we're glad to have Mike Holt. And just good crowd. I want to cut things short because we got a presentation here by Scott. It's about, we support the Ecuadorian ministry. I have never supported a missionary in my life because I've never met one that believed in predestination, the sovereignty of God, election, a daily cross, death to self, self-denial. Christmas is pagan, Easter's pagan, and doesn't believe in all the rituals of the church. Well, Scott is one that does. Of course, he's been studying under me for some time, and I want Scott to come forward, and I want him to tell you about Grace and Truth Ministries of Ecuador. They are an extension of us, and we support them. And you want to give money to the Ecuadorian arm of Grace and Truth, you make out a check to Ecuador Mission Trust, Ecuador, Ecuador. It's on the equator. That's why they call it that. I guess that's why they call it that. Probably. Well, anyway, this is our brother, Scott, and he's here to tell us about the ministry down there, and he's going to have a little slideshow. Huh?
Thank you.
You take it,
Mike,
there.
do you want to? We'll start with. I have prepared a video presentation, and I guess after that we'll probably just take some questions. Does that sound good?
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Okay. Can't hear?
We'll probably have to have all these lights off.
Yeah, everybody turn cell phones off, please.
Can you take a look at this
Police.
mic and see if I'm all set after you can get that started, and then we'll do it.
It says Jerry.
Okay.
You should be good.
Where is he?
There's Jerry.
Okay.
We can test that real quick.
Excuse me. Is my mic all set? Can you guys hear?
There's a couple of chairs up here.
Okay.
Take them back there if we need them.
Excuse me.
Hit that play button whenever you're ready.
Play it.
Okay. See if the volume's good.
You're gonna have to hit play again, Mike. Might want to.
What we need to do is start over. Let's see your pretty face. That's Puyo. Right?
That's Puyo. Yeah. There we go.
Down that way is the market.
Is there a way to rewind it?
Yeah, just hit stop and then hit play again.
Stop twice.
See how we do. I think so.
Yep, perfect.
All right.
You're all snap roll, Jason.
Hi everybody, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Scott Warren. I'm your missionary in Ecuador. Just wanted to start with a brief word of thanks for all the support you guys have given us over the course of the past year, and even before that. It's been an eventful year. We've relocated from the jungle. Hi everybody, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Scott Wari. I'm your missionary in Ecuador. Just wanted to start with a brief word of thanks for all the support you guys have given us over the course of the past year, and even before that. It's been an eventful year. We've relocated from the jungle, now we're living in the city, and we're grateful for the opportunities that city life provides. There's lots of people here, there's lots of opportunities to get this message out. This video shall serve as a summation of our experiences so far, living in the city, in the new ministry that we're starting. Let's take a look.
Hi, Lily. We're here in the center of Puyo. Down here is one of the main, well, the only main grocery store in the city. And let's see. Down that way is the market. It's kind of a major intersection in the city as well. And then down that street right there is our new church. The church is on the first floor, the ground level, and our apartment will be on the second level. Let's go take a closer look. Okay, we just came from up there. Now here we are at our new church. I'm with Abby now. We're going to have our apartment on the second floor right there. And we're going to put the church right in here so it'll be real convenient for us. We're going to begin painting in here. Lord willing, be done with the painting by the end of the day. Move all of our tables and chairs in. A couple guys working here right now. In here, the pulpit, speaker for the hymns, projector, put the words on the wall, chalkboard, stack of books to go in the bookcase. You gotta mount that on the wall. Bibles. Today was a pretty typical day. Prepared a sermon first thing in the morning for a few hours, and then took care of some projects that I had here in the church. I basically got this bookcase put up. I had already done the other two, and I got that Bible verse hung on the wall, and the Greek alphabet over there. Got that put up, and tonight we have a service, and I'm going to go out on the streets right now and try to hand out some tracts and see if I can't get some people to show up for church. This right here is the playground, and I guess what you would call the Central Park of Puyo. And I come down here quite a bit. That right there is the main Catholic church in the city, where most people go on Sundays. And I come down here probably every other day, and as you can see, there's lots of people sitting around, and I'll just go up to the people and just sit down next to them and hand them a tract. They're very easy to talk to, and I'll just talk to people and tell them, you know, what I'm doing here. We're starting a new church, and then invite them to church and tell them what I believe. Getting ready for a service.
Revisar el libro de Génesis, porque es importante entender la historia, es decir, cómo llegaron a ser esclavos en la tierra de Egipto. Entonces empezamos aquí, en el libro de Génesis, con Adán y Eva, en el huerto de Edén. Entonces Adán y Eva estaban viviendo en el huerto de Edén. ¿Qué hicieron? Pecaron contra Dios.
cogieron el fruto prohibido, el fruto del árbol de la ciencia del bien y del mal, y comieron. Y inmediatamente se cayeron. ¿Y qué hizo Dios? Dios sacrificó un animal. Ellos cosieron hojas de higuera, ¿no es cierto? Pero Dios rechazó la obra de sus manos, diciendo, ustedes no pueden solucionar este problema, ustedes pecaron, yo soy un Dios santo. Dios exige un sacrificio de sangre, siempre por el pecado. Entonces Dios dijo, no puede coser hojas de higuera, eso no es suficiente. Y Dios sacrificó un animal y Adán y Eva fueron cubiertos con la sangre del sacrificio. Entonces, Adán y Eva años más cortos en que el sol baja muy temprano. Y el 25 está nacido de nuevo el sol y la reina de los cielos está dando una otra vuelta de la rueda del año. Todo eso viene de la mitología de los romanos. Muchos dicen que la Virgen María es la reina de los cielos. Eso viene de la cultura pagana.
Por ejemplo, hay muchos santos y muchas santas, ¿no? Como a los católicos que siempre llevan el rosario, como se lo dice. Hay muchas cosas que ellos llevan, no sé, el traje,
Sí,
la túnica,
todo eso viene de la cultura pagana.
la corona.
¿Tú sabes esto?
Sí.
Tengo un otro libro que tú puedes llevar. El Wilder ya ha leído esto. Está filmando. Cortinas de humo.
Cortinas de humo es bien interesante.
¿Quién es la ramera del Apocalipsis? Una respuesta bíblica e histórica.
Eso está explicando todas estas cosas de que estamos hablando, de dónde vienen las prácticas de la Iglesia Católica.
Hi everybody, I just wanted to take a minute to introduce you guys to our friend. This is Wilder Yanis. He comes from Canelos. He is the first believer I've met since I've been here in Ecuador, and I've kind of taken him under my wing over the past few years. He still lives in Canelos, but today he came out to visit us here in Puyo, and I figured I'd record a quick video with him just to say hi so you guys could put a face to the name. So this is my friend Wilder. Wilder, say hello. He doesn't speak English, so I don't know how much we can do in the video, but this is Wilder. He believes the truth. He's learning, and he comes to visit me in Puyo from time to time, so we'll keep Wilder in prayer. Thanks.
Hi, Lele.
Hi, Daddy.
This is our house. Kitchen. We still use rainwater for drinking water, and we filter it right there. The water that comes out of the tap you'd have to boil, and after you boil it, it has kind of a funny taste, so we still collect the rainwater out here in that blue bucket down there. It comes in right off the roof, and then we haul it up in buckets and put it through that filter right there. And gas stove, the gas tank's under that table right there. And so here's the bathroom. And the biggest problem right here is that water that comes out of that is very cold. Very cold. So we're gonna have to get a water heater in the near future. And then down there's the girls' room, and that's our room. And this is a room here that we just use for storage and stuff. There's Abby. Hi, Ab.
Hi, Dad.
And there's Delilah in the living room / dining room. So that's an Ecuadorian house here in the city. So here I am in the back side of our house. And, this is our house from the back. And there's another house up there. It's our neighbor. And there's another house behind us. And then down here, there are a couple of rooms. There were 2 families living in those rooms right there. And that right there off to the right, that's actually a shower. You can kind of see the shower curtain there. It's a bit rainy today. And they would string up their laundry on this. They had a clothesline here, but they took down the wire that they had that they hung their clothes on. So basically, there's all different types of lifestyles here in the city. There are some people that are able to live in nice houses like that one right there. And we have a pretty standard apartment in this building. And then there are other families that live in these one-room apartments that probably go for about $70 a month. Today's a bit rainy here in Ecuador. There are some neighborhoods in the city of Puyo that remind me of Canelos, where the people live in wooden houses that are up on stilts and stuff like that one. Not exactly sure what this is, other than idolatry. I think we have a shrine here. I don't know exactly who put it here. I would imagine it's put here by the owners of this house here, because I see another one right up there. That's another sort of statue of Mary in it, and this is very common here in Ecuador. They're all over the place, these same shrines. This is another neighborhood in Puyo that reminds me of Canelos. There you see some type of, I don't think anyone lives in there, it's just a room that they made with the thatch roof and a fence made out of bushes, and then a whole bunch of wood houses. So this whole part of the city is really reminds me a lot of Canelos. Here we have a bus stop. This is the Centinela del Oriente. This is the bus stop where the buses leave to go out to all of the jungle villages all around Puyo. Puyo's in the center, and then all around Puyo there's various indigenous tribes that live throughout the jungle. So you can go, leave out of here and head an hour in various different directions, and you'll come to a whole bunch of different towns. And the buses leave from this place to these villages like 4 or 5 times a day. So normally the people will come here in the morning, get dropped off here, and then they'll return later on in the day to catch an afternoon bus back to their village. So this place is usually filled. It's early in the morning right now, so no one's really here right now. But this is kind of a busy place. It's usually filled with people that come from the jungle that are hanging around, waiting for their bus back. Socialist Party of Ecuador. Ample forehead. That's what that would be literally translated. Probably wouldn't be too likely to see that in the US. This is a rather busy intersection here in Puyo. And we have a store. You can go into this store. There are millions of them. Buy rice, flour by the pound, noodles, butter, eggs, whatever you need. You can get it in these types of stores. There's another one right over here across the street. Okay, here we have a construction project going on. You can see how they make use of trees that come from the jungle and things like that. And then behind me, there's stores all over the place. And then it's real common to have stores like this where they're playing music for anyone that passes by out of that big speaker. Here we are in what is called the municipio, and there are all the government offices and things like that that you need to go to. And then on the first floor there's a bunch of stores and things. And we have another Roman Catholic image, Mary with the babe in arms, with the Ecuadorian shield. And then through there is the market. Here we are in the market. There's a bunch of vendors that sit and sell fruits and vegetables and all sorts of stuff. And over this side, some more Roman Catholicism. Painting of the Roman Catholic Church here in Puyo. And then we have more meat. More meat. Perdón. There's a fish market where you can buy fish. Some more fish. So this is where we're at now. I've painted the name of the church on the wall right there with the verse from John 1:17. The law by Moses was given, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. Got the name of the church up there as well. Here we are inside the church. I've got these bookshelves bolted up on the wall, full of books. A lot of these books are my own personal books that I have in English, and I'm working on getting a collection of Spanish books as well. Here we have a whole bunch of documents. What I typically do is take these documents here and make copies of them. I'd like to get my own copy machine at some point, because going to the internet cafes to make copies can get expensive. Sometimes I'll spend 10 bucks on copies. They're 5 cents a piece, and I'll give out all those copies in one day. So what I typically do is I'll make copies of this invitation, and it just has the name of the church, it has the address, and it lists all of our beliefs. And then I'll just take and staple that to one of these documents or one of these tracts and put them in my backpack there and go out, and I'll make 200 copies and hand out 200 copies out on the street in an hour or so. And basically these are the documents. A lot of them are documents that Pastor Jim has written and Willie and I have translated into Spanish. Others are documents that Willie and I have written. And yeah, that's what we hand out. So we project the hymns that we sing right up onto the chalkboard now. I put that sign up just the other day. We've got the pulpit, the chalkboard, projector, and we play the hymns through that speaker right there. And recently put up that curtain. I've got a Bible verse on the wall and the Greek alphabet over here. Homemade signs. And that's our family from Grace and Truth in Tennessee. Lord willing, I'll be returning with some new photos, updated photos of all you guys. Okay, I left the jungle and we moved into the city, and I did it. I was, I guess, maybe a little bit impatient, and I got a house on one side of the city and a storefront to start the church on the other side, and it wasn't a great location. I didn't realize that the people, if you don't make it real convenient for them, they won't come. And the place I chose, it was kind of on the outskirts of the city, and it was out of the way, so people weren't coming. So I said, okay, well, we got to reevaluate. And I found this place that has the church and the house together, and I said, okay, this will be much better. And I had only been there a month or two anyway, so I said, if I'm going to change the location, now's a good time to do it. And we moved into the new place. So we've moved twice in the past few months, which was a little bit crazy with the kids and everything. But yeah, so we've been there now in the new place for, I think, I don't know, 6 weeks or so.
Why is everything so dirty? It all looks dirty.
Outside especially, it rains so much there, and all the building materials are like the cheapest building materials you can find. So all the concrete, everything's made out of cement. All the buildings are made out of cinder blocks and cement, and the cinder blocks are real cheap quality. Like if you take one and just drop it, it'll crumble. Nothing's like it is here. And with all the rain and everything gets moldy. So all the outside buildings are moldy, and in the marketplaces, you'll see everyone in Ecuador has at least 3 or 4 dogs, and they're all just mixed mutts or whatever, and they just run around the streets. And so when you go into the markets and stuff, there'll be dogs running all over the place, and it's just not the cleanest place in the world. Right now we're just starting out, so I expect it to be low. But in the video that we saw 2 young guys. One of them was a young guy that comes from Canelos, where I was before in the jungle, and he's only about 17, and he loves the message. So I don't see him too often because he lives about an hour and a half away, but every once in a while he'll take a bus and come and visit me in the church. I saw him one day walking around in the city, and he saw me, came running over to me, and I said, hey, come on, check it out, and I showed him where I lived and where the church was and stuff, and now he's come a couple times. So he came once on a Thursday night. We have services on Thursday night, and he stayed with me and went back for school the next morning on a Friday. And he's done that a couple times. And now we have another 17-year-old kid that was the other one you saw. I was having a conversation with him talking about the book Smoke Screens and the origins of Christmas, and it just amazes me. I mean, he already knew. He was talking about the rosary, and he knew that the rosary was a pagan symbol, and he was like, in the robes that they wear and the hats and everything. He had already heard that stuff, and he's just. I mean, I know I can't get encouraged when people come in, and I can't get discouraged when people leave. I understand that people are going to come and go, and that's the way it is, and it's going to take a long time, and it's not going to be built overnight or anything like that. But the truth is, he has encouraged me a bit to see him come in, and he just wants to learn, and he has questions, and I give him a book, and he'll come back like 2 days later and tell me what happened on every page in the book. And, he told me he came for about 3 or 4 we were there, and then the last time, right before I came up here, he came on a Sunday, and I preached for about an hour, and it was just him and my family that showed up that day. And after about an hour, I said, do you guys want to keep going? And they all said, yeah, okay. So I went for about another hour, and then my wife brought the kids upstairs, and then he hung around and talked with me for like another hour. So I was like 3 hours into it, and then he said, well, let me go get my girlfriend. And he went and got his girlfriend and brought her back. And he's like, tell her what you told me about, the God and the Egyptians. And tell her what you told me about God doesn't love everybody. Tell her what you told me about this. So I preached to her for a long time. And he's got all sorts of stuff going on in his life right now. God is really putting him through the fire. But he says, one thing that it just warms my heart to see is, he told me, he said, I was going to this church that my girlfriend's family goes to before, and he says, they'll talk about the Bible, but very little. He said, they'll pass the plate around, and they'll sing, and they'll do this and that, and then he'll get up, and he might open the Bible and read a verse, and it's some type of Pentecostal church. And he'll say, he'll read a verse, but then, he'll start talking, and it'll be more about technology and, the newspaper and this and that. And he said, I want to learn the Bible, and it's very, very little. He said, I come here, and you're teaching the Bible. And that was the exact same way I felt when I found Pastor Jim. It was like, I always knew that there was more to this, and I always wanted to learn, and it was like, how do you learn? I knew when I was reading that a lot of stuff was just going right over my head. And then when I found Jim, he was explaining all the idioms and metaphors and getting into it and breaking down the sentences and every word and everything else. And so that's basically what I try to do. Right now I'm going through a series on the spiritual kingdom of God. And I'm just another member of this church as far as I'm concerned. And I mean, I use Willie for help all the time. And everything I write. Right now, as I said,
I'm working on sermons on the spiritual kingdom of God. I have one on the spiritual rebirth, and it's all about predestination. We're birthed by the will of God and everything like that. So I have one sermon so far. It's about an hour and 15 minutes on the spiritual rebirth. I have another one on the church is Israel. I love the doctrine of spiritual Israel. The church is Israel. I have a whole sermon on it. I have working on writing documents on it and everything else. Right now I'm teaching on the spiritual Passover. So what I'll do is I'll watch Jim's DVDs. I'll sit there and just take notes on it and learn it all really, really well as best as I can. I need to learn it so well that I can preach the whole thing without having any notes. Just know it all. And what I do is I'll watch all the sermons and take really good notes and learn it all really well in English, and then I'll have to go over and open up the Spanish Bible, and I have to memorize all the verses that I'm going to recite. So right now I've memorized so much scripture in Spanish that I can just walk around and I can just recite it. But I forgot them all in English.
God, here's another word of encouragement. You turn a rat hole into a beautiful house of God.
Mm-hmm.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Well, don't clap for me.
Do you get a lot of opposition from the Catholics?
Oh, the Catholics. Okay. I've probably been talking with a lot of you guys, so I might start to sound like a broken record, but every day, almost every day, it's like, I don't know, it's all of God. I'll go out and I'll invite people to church, and everyone's starting to get to know me, and it's like every single day now, I can't avoid it. I'll get into discussions like 4 or 5 times a day, sometimes one-on-one, sometimes a whole group of people will form around me, and it'll go on for an hour or so, and this is every single day. One time I got on a bus, and I was just riding the bus, and this guy got up and he started preaching, and he's saying how you need to open your heart and accept Christ, and how he's going to make your life all better and all this and that. And he went on, and I raised my hand, and he wouldn't call on me. So finally, after 5 or 10 minutes, I stood up in the back of the bus, and as soon as he took a breath, I just started going. I said, you're saying all this stuff. We need to accept Christ, and we need to open our hearts, and our life's going to get better and all this. And I'm saying, but the Bible says that we're chosen of God from before the foundation of the world. We must through much tribulation enter into the kingdom of God, and our foes are going to come from our own household. I said, so why should I believe you when you're saying all this stuff and you haven't quoted one verse of Scripture, and I've just given you 7 that contradict everything you say? And then all the people on the bus started laughing at him, and it went on for a while. But I don't like having to do that. I would have preferred if he had just told the truth to begin with, but I couldn't sit there and listen to this guy. But this is just every single day. Another time I was walking down the street and it was raining. So a lot of times people, when it rains, it's a different culture than here. You'll just stop in someone's front yard and wait under their roof until the rain passes. So it was nighttime, and I was walking down the street, and I saw this young couple standing under someone's roof, and it was raining. So I said, okay, I'll invite them to church, and started talking with them. They're about 20 years old, a guy and his girlfriend, and I said, I'm starting a church right over there if you'd like to come, and all this and that, and started telling them what we believe. And then the owner of the house came out, and she was Roman Catholic, and she started saying how there's only one church, and all this and that, and laying into me, and very angry. And it seems like most of the time I'll go to people's houses and invite them to church and try to start a conversation with them. And it seems like a lot of times when they're in their 50s and 60s, Roman Catholic, they won't want anything to do with me, and they will just blast me right to my face and tell me, get out of here. So this lady here, she was trying to tell me that the Roman Catholic Church was the only one true church, and I was saying, well, look at the history. In 325, Constantine merged Roman Catholicism with all the pagan cultures and brought all that in. I said, for years and years and years, they taught the doctrine of purgatory, which they don't even believe anymore, and they were selling salvation to all the people. They've prohibited the translation of the Bible for centuries and centuries, and can a good tree bear this type of corrupt fruit? I don't think so. So why would you think that the Roman Catholic Church is?
Do you ever get confronted by priests down there?
I see priests from time to time, but they've never, no.
Well, the people here may not realize that's a Roman Catholic country.
Oh, yeah.
It's 95% Roman Catholic, but it doesn't seem like it when I'm walking around, because it's like there's Jehovah's Witness all over the place. It's crazy. They come to my door like once a week, and I lived in one house when I first got there for, I don't know, it was a couple months, it seems like. So I was living there, and they would come to my door like once a week. So when they would come, I would go out and I would talk to them, and I'd talk to them about everything. And I'd go talk with them for like an hour or two, and I'd show them predestination. I'd show them everything. I'd talk to them about Jesus is the doctrine of the Trinity. Jesus is God. All this. The Jehovah's Witness, actually, it seems like they're trained, and they have a response to everything I say. It's oftentimes wrong. I'll show them, it's usually wrong. I'll show them, I'll tell them, God chooses who He saves. Look at the example of Jacob and Esau, and I'll say, God predestined who He saved. The verse says, for whom He did foreknow. Whom refers to people. And they'll say, but how do you know a person if not by their actions? And they'll say, well, now you're contradicting Romans 9, which says before they were born, before they had done good or bad. And you keep saying, look at Esau, he sold his birthright. No, it's not because he sold his birthright. It was before he was born, before he had done good or bad, that the purpose of God according to election might stand.
I'd love to watch
So.
that because witnesses are corrupt.
Yeah, it'll go on for an hour or two. I'll talk with them. And another time I was sitting down in a restaurant, and a guy came over to me. I was just drinking a cup of coffee, and he came over to me with his Watchtower information, and I just looked at it, and I said, it's all Watchtower, and I said, that's trash. You can put that right over there in the trash can. And they're not used to people talking like that in that culture. People don't do that. And there's no truth there. So he said, what do you mean that's trash? What do you mean? No one's probably ever responded like that to him before. I said, I know who you are. It says Watchtower right there. You guys are Jehovah's Witness. I know your doctrine very well. And then I said, you guys don't even believe that Jesus is God. And normally they won't agree with that. They'll say, who told you that, or whatever. But this guy, he said, that's right. According to the Bible, he's not. And I said, well, can you show me a verse to prove that? And he tried to open up John 17, verse 3. It says, what does it say? The only true God and Jesus Christ. And I said, do you know what the original Greek word is that's translated and? And he had no idea. I said, you don't know anything. I could tell you, but why would I bother? You've already made up your mind. And again, I embarrassed him in the restaurant, and I don't like having to do that, but if someone's going to come around and try to talk to me in public, so I'm making a name for myself in the city. But usually, like I said, I was in one house, and they would come to my house, and then I moved, and now it's the same people that start coming to the new house. So now they're seeing me for the second time, and I'm like, oh boy, here they come again. So now, after I've given them so much, I'm not going to continue to, debate with them. I'll talk to them extensively, and that's it. We moved into the jungle to start, and I've left the jungle since. I had some disagreements with my brother doctrinally, so I left the jungle, and now I'm starting something in the city. So I haven't gone into any of the villages around the city yet, but that is what I want to do in the future. But I've learned a lot from what we did there, and the 3.5 years I was there was a great learning experience, and I can now see the reason I was sent there. I learned the language. The people that live in the jungle, the Spanish is not their first language, it's their second. So it was a great place for me to learn. Their Spanish is much slower. When you get into the cities, they don't pronounce all the letters, and it's much blurred together. It's much more difficult to understand. So it was great, and I was able to sit there and study all the time. But I learned a lot. I was with my brother when we first went in there, and I had my wife, who is also American. His wife is Ecuadorian, but she was mistreated because she was married to an American. They would call her the gringo's wife. So basically, they look at us as foreigners, as different. And if anyone, we are. But there are various ways of looking at a foreigner. You can say, oh, well, he's a foreigner. Let's, welcome him to the country. Or you can say, he's a foreigner. And that was the way it was. And so the people, if they would ever have come into the church, it was very visible that they were uncomfortable in the church, because they'd be the only one there, and they're looking over their shoulder. What's the neighbor going to think of me if I'm seen coming in? And these people were, when we were in the jungle, they were making threats against us, saying, we had started a school, and they said that they were going to set up a barricade out in front of school so that none of the kids could enter, and it was one thing after another. And I imagine that's what it's going to be like in most of the villages. So now what I want to do is in a group of 4 or 5 or however many. That's much better than the two white guys trying to preach to people. If I can get a group of 5 people, that way if one person comes in, he's not going to feel so awkward because there's already a small group of people there.
You
So
say they hate. You said the government hates Americans.
yeah, the president
Do the people?
in the cities, no. In the cities, no. They love the American culture. Everyone wants to go to America. They all want to learn English. They all want to buy American clothes, all that. In the cities, anytime I get into a taxi, it works out well for me because everyone wants to know about me, what I'm doing here. So I get to tell them, and it's real open door to preach to people because they come right out and ask you everywhere you go. When you get in a taxi, and it's a different culture too. When you go in just to buy anything, you usually talk to the vendor for a few minutes. It's not just give me the eggs. And the president really, since he's taken office, it's just been one thing after another. He wants to just control the people. So that was why he closed down our school in the jungle, and he made it so that no private schools are going to open anymore. If there's already a private school, it'll probably be okay, but no new private schools are going to open. He's put taxes on all clothing, computers, anything that come in from the United States. So there used to be American clothing stores and stuff in Ecuador, and that's pretty much a thing of the past now. There's no way. The taxes are too high. If you come from the U.S. to Ecuador now, you can only take like 2 bags. I remember, I think it was the first time I went, I took like 8 bags, and the second time I brought like 6 bags or something. Now you can't do that. You can only bring so much. And he made it, passed a law saying that no American pilots can fly in Ecuadorian airspace. You have to be Ecuadorian in order to get a pilot's license, a citizen. And he's just one law after another. And the last law I heard was that you can't put an American name on your baby's birth certificate in Ecuador. So if you want to name him John, it'll have to be Juan. If you want to name him Peter, it'll have to be Pedro. So, yeah. And Mike Leiter told me that he heard that he had attended college in the United States. I didn't hear that, but...
Well, you got to tell him you're fixing to have a new baby. That's why you're concerned about how to name it.
Yeah. I'm going to have to pick a name that's the same in English and Spanish, like Jacob, 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 or Israel, Israel. No, it's all the same.
Was it hard trying to learn Spanish?
It's very hard trying to learn Spanish, and that's why I'm grateful that I had the 3.5 years in the jungle. It was harder than I thought it would be. I remember when I was in high school, my Spanish teacher told me, if you study all 4 years in high school and then you go and live in a Spanish-speaking land for a year, you'll have it. Well, I didn't study the 4 years in high school, unfortunately, but maybe that's why it took me like 3 years to learn. And there are different dialects, just like some of you guys are probably saying, what's that guy saying up there? I'm from Boston, so, everyone speaks differently. And sometimes when I'm trying to talk to a person from Guayaquil, which is on the coast, they don't pronounce the S. They blur their words together, and they speak really quickly, and even the people from Puyo say they can't understand them. And I'm like, man, I know a couple guys from Guayaquil, and when I try to talk to them, it's like, what's he saying? But pretty much now, I think I've been there about 4 years now, I'm able to say whatever I want, and I'm able to understand everybody, and yeah, it was difficult learning the language. Ellie, did you have a question? I think it's about 25,000 in the city. The city it's like compressed. You can walk everywhere. There's nothing outside. You can walk to everything.
And the second question is, so you no longer have a school, so you're just strictly a ministry now?
Strictly the church, right. Willie?
How long does it take you to prepare the studies now? Do you have to study English first?
It's so long.
it works out pretty well because, I mean, we all know that we all need repetition to learn. So I'll prepare the sermon and I'll preach it once, and the first time I preach through it, it's not great. You know, it just doesn't go very well. It usually takes me about 3 times to preach a sermon, but that's okay too, because it's usually different people in the church every time, so it's not overly repetitive. By the 3rd time I'm going through the sermon, I've got it down really, really well with very few errors. But beforehand, so it's weeks, really. It'll be like 3 weeks, but each week, you know, I'll just be watching the DVDs and taking notes. Like one day, I'll watch, you know, 3 DVDs and take real good notes. And then if there's something else, I might, you know, the next day I might have to go back, and then it'll be okay. Now I'm going to write this all out in Spanish, so I start working it out in Spanish the 2nd day, and then it'll be like the 3rd day, we'll just be memorizing verses that I'm going to need to cite. Like, you know, when Jim going to put the drawing of the temple on the board, you need to know that, you know, you need to know which verse is for we being many are one body and one bread, and you can't stop when you're drawing the table of showbread to go back to the.
Just so we can understand.
Yeah,
It's not easy.
it's a lot of time. It's. I mean, you know how hard it is to study just the sermons if you're preaching on the spiritual Passover. You have to sit there and you have to watch all of them, and you have to take notes, and you have to really learn it. And then I have to go back and memorize all the verses in Spanish and get really comfortable with it. And I use, you know, there's a lot of things that, with whatever it is, I've noticed, you know, when I was talking with Brother Willie earlier, when you go to the dentist, you know, you don't use the word like molar and gums and things like that in regular everyday Spanish or English. It's when you go to a dentist, he's going to use terms that you're not familiar with. Same thing is true like when you're in the Bible. When every so often you're coming into terms that you're not familiar with, so you have to translate them, and you got to figure out how to translate it. I have to call Willie and say, Willie, how would you translate this? You know, and go on Google Translate and figure it out. So it's a lot of work getting the message accurate in Spanish.
Your daughters all speak Spanish?
The oldest one is probably better than I am. She definitely speaks better than I do, much more clearly. She doesn't have any accent at all. I will always have an accent. There's nothing. I don't imagine there's ever going to be anything I can do to get rid of that. But she doesn't have any accent because she started speaking Spanish when she was 2.5 years old. She was always hanging around with her aunt, who was Ecuadorian, and she just picked it up really well with her. Then she went into school for a year with her 10 classmates, all speaking Spanish, and she really learned it well. And so she speaks it. She knows about as many words probably as I do, but she doesn't have the accent that I do.
Is there other 2?
The other 2 are pretty much in the house with Delilah all the time, speaking English. And right now, in the past few months, they've started picking up a lot of words, I've noticed. So they're starting to learn it. And in this upcoming year, we're trying to figure out what we're going to do right now with the kids in terms of school. I want them to, you know, learn the culture and learn the language and everything. So I'll probably put them in a public school for at least a few years. But all the public schools are government run, which is to say they're Roman Catholic. So some of them are more so than others.
If you teach them at home.
If I teach them at home.
They're not going to be affected.
Right.
Yeah, but if schools are exactly the same way here, they may say Christian Academy, but it's
Right.
still Catholic.
Well, they have, you know, Christian academies there too, and that would probably be even more dangerous, you know. At least with the Roman Catholicism, when she sees a statue of Mary, she's going to know that's idolatry. It's breaking the 2nd commandment, you know, and she's going to know these things. And she knows all this stuff already. It amazes me how much she knows. Sometimes I was telling Willie the other day, you know, we'll be, you know, driving around or whatever, hanging around, and she'll tell me something about Genesis, and I'll say, that's right. I didn't know that. I know she got it from me at one point, but I already forgot it. You know, she's up through Exodus now in the Bible, and she knows it. I think it might be safe to say she knows it at least as well, if not better than I do. Because I forget the stuff and have to go back and look it up. What was that again? She doesn't forget it.
I go through each chapter with her, and this is what we do in school right now. She's schooled in the house right now, and I'll have her read it in English, I'll have her read it in Spanish, and then I'll have her make a drawing of what's done in the chapter with a Bible verse, and by the end of once she goes through each chapter, she knows it. She doesn't have to go back. She just has it all memorized.
Did you have any problems in the city like you had in the jungle? You had a problem with the natives and the snakes and all this in the jungle?
In the jungle, there was a lot of persecution. They did not want us there, and they basically thought that, we're a community. We don't have to abide by the laws of Ecuador. We can do whatever we want. And they would threaten to burn our house down and stone us. And
Well, do you have any problems in
not quite like that. There are angry people, that don't like us being there. And, there's always that type of threat when you're in a foreign country, and with all that's going on with the president, we wouldn't be the least bit surprised if he tried to, deport Americans that don't have citizenship there. That wouldn't surprise me. Supposedly he uncovered a CIA plot to assassinate him not too long ago.
That's why I don't like them.
So he must be thinking, how can I trust this guy? Yeah, he's got a church, but he could be a spy, So God's in control. If God wants me to be there preaching the truth, I'll be there. If he wants me to get deported, I'll get deported. But that's the relations between the U.S. and Ecuador right now are not good.
You said, y'all are strictly ministry. Do they have television? And I know that they've got a radio because I heard a music playing. Are they gonna, like Jim, he's got the ministry where he's on the internet and the radio
Right.
and television. Are you gonna try to expand out that way?
Down the road.
More people?
Down the road, yeah. We're still, just getting started now. So part of the thing I have to work on every day is just being content with what I have and saying, it's not going to be built overnight. And if I was all over the airwaves and everything else, no one would come, because it's, you got to put in the time. You got to learn. You got to be persecuted, and you got to search for the sheep, and you'll find them in time. But it's not going to happen overnight. So we're just getting started. Down the road, the goal, we're working together to put the message in Spanish, and it's not just to bring it to Ecuador, it's to bring it to all of the Spanish-speaking world. So, everything I do is basically proofread by Willie, and he's translated a bunch of Jim's stuff. Everything I do is now published on YouTube, so everyone that speaks Spanish here can see it. My aim is to put this message that we believe. I believe everything Jim teaches. I've never heard him say something that I don't agree with. So I'm trying to do my best to take the message, translate it into Spanish, and deliver it. So, I need all the help I can get. I view us as a family. That's what I'm trying to do. And it's all right out in the open. So, Willie.
I don't have a question. I just want to praise God for using a guy like you and putting you in a place like that to do His will. That's real inspirational. And I take it personally. Sometimes I get lazy. When I see a guy like you doing that, that gives me a lot of encouragement.
Praise God.
Where do you get your books, like the Bible and things of that nature?
The Spanish ones, I get them here. So yeah, we got a whole bunch of Bibles that we're gonna bring down. There's a new one that came out in 2010, and we think it's a better translation than what they had before. So we're going to bring down a bunch of these Bibles, and I've been putting together a collection of books little by little. It's hard to find books that have been translated into Spanish, good books. There is a supposedly Christian bookstore down there, but it's Joyce Meyer, T.D. Jakes, all this stuff. So I have found Gleason Archer's Introduction to Old Testament Survey in Spanish, so I got that. I found the Rose Book of Bible Timelines and Charts. I've got that in Spanish. I've got Alfred Edersheim's books translated into Spanish. I've got a couple books by Spurgeon in Spanish. So I'm little by little getting a library together. All I'm going to do is I'm going to have the original book. I have the two Babylons. I have Strong's Concordance. I have I have an Interlinear Bible by Cesar Vidal. I have the Myth of Mary. all this stuff in Spanish now. So I'm getting there. We're building a library. What I'm going to do is you can bring a book to a print shop in Ecuador, say, can you copy this? And they'll copy the book and spiral bind it and put a plastic cover on the top and bottom, and you'll have a spiral bound copy of it, and it's pretty nice. And I'm not going to sell the books or anything like that. If I sell a book, it's gone. You know, we don't have it anymore. So I'm going to make copies of every book, and I'm going to say, hey, if you come to the church, I'll let you take a book home. You can take it and read it and bring the copy back when you're done, and I'll keep the original in the church. So, Brother Keith.
You told us that you need a hot shower. So other than that, what are some of the things else that you need?
Well, like I said, you guys are supporting us, so you know we're not struggling anymore. And I just, you know, little by little, we're going to move forward. We're going to get stuff. You know, the ministry always has needs. You guys have been here how many years now? And I mean, if I would ask you, what do you need? I'm sure you have things that you need, right? So it never goes away. You know, yeah, of course there are things that we need, but little by little, we'll get them. You know, like I said, I want to get a copy machine. That's the first thing. Once I get a copy machine, I can just I can copy the books myself. And no, they're in the house in Canelos, because they can't be transferred because you'd have to change the electric meter, and the owner in the new house would never go for it because they're 220 volt. So right now they're with the house in Canelos. No, I still have the house in Canelos. It would be nice if I could sell it and get some money for it, in which case I'd get reimbursed for the air conditioners. Or I could take the air conditioners out and sell them separately if I wanted to, and I would be able to sell them like that without too much trouble. But right now I'm just kind of holding on to it. It's for sale. If someone wants to buy it, they can. But if someone doesn't buy it, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen down the road. I mean, there's anything that could happen. You know, maybe in 10 years things will be different in that community, and we'll be back there, and we might need a place. So it's not the end of the world if I can't unload the house right now. If I can, it'd help. So.
Does Delilah have a midwife that's going to help her at home, or does she go to the hospital and have the baby?
She's going to have the baby in the hospital, and we'll just go from there. I'm always around the house, you know, and she's there, so, yeah.
Do you guys have plenty of stuff for a boy?
We don't have anything for a boy. Brother Dwayne. Well,
of course it's God.
yeah.
Was there a reason that you picked out?
Well, my brother originally picked it, actually. He went down there because, you know, there's indigenous tribes all throughout the rainforest, and he read a story about a group of missionaries that went down there and got killed by one of these tribes, and he wanted to go. So then he was down there, and he was down there for a couple of years, and then, you know, the Lord, he was kind of my mentor when I first started studying the Bible, and you know, I went down there to help him because I said somebody should be helping him. He's alone, so I went down there, and you know, things didn't work. Things worked out well at first. I had found Pastor Jim's DVDs probably 6 months before I went to Ecuador. I had already made plans. I was going there and everything else. So when I found his DVDs, I brought them down to Ecuador, and I was pleasantly surprised that my brother liked them. But after about a year, I don't know, maybe 2 years of being there, he kind of, you know, the message, I don't know exactly what happened. It's just speculation, but this message gets hard. It gets real hard, you know, and it's, my brother, when I first gave him the tapes, he loved it. He was, you know, watching Christmas and taking notes and loving it. And then Revelation, he loves Jim's preaching on Revelation, and went right through all of it. And, you know, after time, I knew he had some problems with baptism, and we would talk about it. You know, I'd try to help him see, you know, what we all believe and what we all know to be true. And he couldn't see it, and it wound up being a point of separation for us. And then, you know, after that, I started talking with him about some other things, and you know, that we don't see eye to eye on. He was hurt when I separated from him, and didn't think I should separate over baptism, and that led us into a discussion where he doesn't really feel quite as like we need to separate from other Christians in the world. You know, we don't really see these people as Christians. They have a different Jesus than we do. So we've grown in two different directions. I imagine before I left him, I started feeling like, what am I doing here? This doesn't seem to be of God. The school got closed. I'm putting all this time in, studying the language, studying the Bible, getting ready to preach, and no one shows up at the church. And I'm saying, I'm suffering here in this jungle. Sometimes it can be like torture with the mosquitoes at night. Like, I still have scars all over my legs from the mosquitoes. And so I was just thinking, this isn't going well. It shouldn't be this way. And he and I would bicker, butt heads, and just growing in different directions for 6 months or so before the thing with the baptism happened. And so once I did leave, I'd say this: I don't think he put down Jim's sermons probably about 6 months before I separated. And it's been a few more months, so he's not watching these sermons anymore, and we're going in two different directions. So it's tough. It gets harder and harder as you go. When you first come in, you say, "Wow, this is great," and then it's like, yeah, baptism. We don't do baptism. Demons, no. Christmas, crackers and grape juice, one thing after another, and you have to tell these things to everyone, and these people who are Christians that you've always thought were Christians, well, no, they're not. We have to separate, and it gets hard, and that's not uncommon. That's not uncommon. What happened with Steve? That I imagine that I've been here, a short period of time, and it seems like I've seen a lot of people that come in and get excited and leave because it gets hard. It gets real hard. The longer you stay in it, the harder it gets.
Who's supporting?
He doesn't have much support. He never really has. He was in finance for years and bought a house and sold his house and made some money. And he's always had a handful of guys that he was in seminary with that are also missionaries that get supported pretty heavily that send him money. But it's small. Most of the support now. So now I'm not really doing anything with him, and you guys are my only support. So anything that comes in right now from Grace and Truth, everyone mails their check to Jim, and then Jim mails the checks to my father, and my father knows when it comes from Jim, it comes from Grace and Truth, so it all gets sent right to me.
How's that been for your dad? For you guys to not
Well, it scares him. I know it scares him. He would prefer to have his sons together and being in a foreign country, but he understands the sovereignty of God. He knows it's all God's will, so,
Thank goodness.
yeah. Brother Lawrence.
Besides Jehovah's Witness and Catholics, is there any other religion?
There's every other religion. It surprised me to see how many there were in the city. It's, you don't know it when you're just walking around, but once you start inviting people to church and handing out tracts and preaching the truth, they come out of the woodwork. And, I put my sign up. They don't know what to make of the Star of David and the 7 candlesticks. They don't know what to make of that. And then I start telling them about spiritual Israel, and they've never heard it before. And they come by and they'll read the verse we have, the law by Moses, and they're like, what is this? And then they see the candlesticks and the Star of David, and they'll come in. And they'll talk to me, and if I'll be sitting there and trying to prepare a sermon or study, and I'll get like 4 or 5 visitors throughout the day. And sometimes they'll come in and want to fight with me. I had one woman, she wanted to fight with me over predestination. I said, well, do you know what the original Greek word is? So she didn't. So I said, okay, have a seat, and I'll put it on the board. And I started putting predestination, pro horizo, and I started breaking it down. And I said, pro. And she said, that means to do before. And I said, okay, good. Do you know what the next one is? And she didn't know, but she didn't want to stop talking. She kept wanting to teach me. I'm saying, you don't know what the word means. I'm trying to tell you, but you don't want to learn. So when we're done. And she, I saw her out. And then another Seventh-day Adventist, a lot of Seventh-day Adventists, she came by, and, first she's reading about the law and then Christ. So naturally, the next thing she wants to talk about is the Sabbath day. And I started explaining it to her. I'm saying, no, we don't have a literal Sabbath day. It's not Saturday. Our Sabbath is spiritual. It's every single day. Christ is our Sabbath. He's sovereign over all things. He's controlling all things, and in that we have rest. And I started explaining it to her, showing all the verses. Colossians 2, is it 16, I think, specifically says that the Sabbath day has been nailed to the cross with Christ. And I said, you guys just don't understand the relationship between the Old Testament and the New Testament, the shadow and the very image. And I explained it all to her for like an hour and a half. And she was walking down the street working, and she was like, you know what? I've always known it was spiritual. And she said, I'm the black sheep in my church because I tell them that it's spiritual, and they don't believe me. They want to fight with me. But she had never seen it laid out the way I laid it out for her. But, you know, I'd be surprised if she actually did come to the church. But most people, when I teach these things, you know, they'll say, what are you? Are you a Mormon? What are you? I'll say, no, I'm a believer. You know?
I like that, though, that she said she's the black sheep. I can't speak for everybody, but I was the black sheep.
Yeah.
She was a Jehovah's Witness, that's why.
Right.
And then a Mormon.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Susan. They should. They should. It's not the same as here. In times past, I've noticed very few police on the streets. But actually, in the past couple months, it's been strange. There's like groups of police on every street corner. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on, but. No, I don't feel good about the law enforcement there. Definitely not. I don't think they're going to help me at all. I mean, I've been warned, don't go to Guayaquil because the police will take you and hold you ransom. So they don't know. I view them more of a threat than.
Is there a 911 system set up there?
I believe there is. Yeah. I'm still waiting to get phone and internet in my house. It's not available in the neighborhood that we're living in right now, so there's an internet cafe right across the street, but I can't get it in my house yet. So that's the situation in all of the city. So anybody else? Well, okay. Let me just 1 second. Okay, John, go ahead. I've talked to him, yeah. We've been in touch through email from time to time, and he came out. He comes to Puyo like once a week to do his grocery shopping and stuff, so I saw him the week before I came out, you know. It is what it is. I imagine over the course of the next few years he's probably going to go somewhere else, you know, and I don't know. I don't see him staying in Canelos too much longer, and I'm going to be in Puyo, so.
Why would he not stay?
I can't imagine that I don't see any reason for him to stay. There's no one, there's really no one there.
Where will he go?
I don't know. I mean, I don't talk to him about this type of stuff too much, so.
Is he supported by a church?
No, he never was. He made some money before he went down there, and like I said, he's got a couple of friends that he went to school with that are also missionaries in various other places that are heavily supported, and they support him. So, but he receives very little money monthly. He lives almost like an ascetic, almost. He doesn't like to spend money on much, yeah. So he's able to live off very little. I put basically everything that comes into the ministry. It's just what I do.
How is it for you to come out here?
I like coming out here. I don't want to go back. I never want to leave. But I like to fish. I love it here. I mean, I'll say this. I know for me, I'm down there in Ecuador, and you know I study all day long. That's what I do: is study and write documents and prepare sermons. It's my job, and preach to people. And I need the fellowship. I need to come back at least once a year to be around people, because God uses all of you to preach to me, and I can be studying the Bible and preparing sermons and preaching to people all the time and be like spiritually stagnant in my mind. You know, it can become almost like a job, just like something I do, and I can lose my passion for it. But when I come back here and talk to all you guys, it's like a new burst of energy, and I get that passion back, and I see God working in the lives of people, and you know it preaches to me. So
I need it. And okay, I guess if there's no more questions, I'll just say thank you to everybody for all the support. And you know, we wouldn't be able to do any of it without all of you. So thank you all.
I love you, brother. Well, Scott's my brother, and if you want to support the mission in Puyo, Ecuador, make out your check to, Mary says that's a little loud. Make your check out to Ecuador Mission Trust. This is how you make it out. Ecuador Mission Trust. And just make it out to that, and they want an account of, Mike, turn that down just a little. Huh? Mike? Okay. But make your check out to Ecuador Mission Trust. We are going to support Scott from now on as long as he's there. He's preaching the things that I teach here. He's preaching to those people in Ecuador, and he's getting the message to them. And like you heard him say, he studies all day long. This is living in a foreign country that's Roman Catholic, and the government doesn't like America. And he's willing to go down there and be involved in this to get the message to, it don't matter if it's just a few, it's God's elect. And somebody's got to be teaching. Do you want to go down there? I doubt most people want to go down there. So the least we can do is support Scott and Delilah and his 3 precious little girls, and got a little boy coming, and he needs our support, our encouragement. And so just as God deals with your heart, support him. And we also, I always like to announce that we try to take care of our needy people that are with the ministry. We can't pay all their bills, but we got people here right now that's right here with us, and people out there that watch us on TV that love the message, and they can't hardly live. And if you want to support the poor and the needy, you send a check, make it to Grace and Truth, and put needy on the bottom of it, and 100% that goes to them. I'm not going to preach long today. I'm going to go ahead and teach some things that people have asked me about. I'm on a series, and I'm going to kind of just give you maybe not a long message, but since we had Scott here today, I'm going to just continue in teaching you some of the things that I've been teaching, and I might change the message a little for people that are here that have not heard the message that we preach. We preach that Christmas and Easter is paganism, and it is. It comes out of Roman Catholicism. Christmas is Christ Mass. Did you start, Mike? Mike?
What's that?
Have you started?
Hold on a second, please.
All right. Huh? Well, I guess I need to pray, don't we? Let me start over again. Let me just ask somebody to pray here that's come in here. Phil, you want to pray for us, please?
Heavenly Father, we come to you this day to share your word and your truth. Help us with our strength. Help us be humble, gracious to the word. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Mike, are we going? Well, let's go.